decide that we were going to
No, not to do it as a dream, but as a memory. Because if you do it as a dream, then it's weird that like she's dreaming, you know. But if you do it as a memory, then you can put it in several places as more memory.
Because the whole thing can't be her dream.
I remember. She's at home. She has the memory. She kind of gets gumption to go up and find Estelle in the Hall of Fire. That's right. I remember now.
Right.
All right. So I wonder. Oh yeah. So
this is the second.
Right.
Flash.
So she interrupts Elrond, and you want. I mean, because we could have sort of a middle of the episode crisis moment where she actually interrupts him and takes him aside and said, "This is not going the way I want it to go," and then he reassures her, like, "I promise you that this is worthwhile and valuable, and you'll see." And then he goes back into it, because I feel like if he just kind of says, "Tut tut, my pet," you know, like, I'm coming to that part. Like,
she's gonna get mad.
Well, not only that she's gonna get mad, but because he's not listening to her, but also I think it kind of sidesteps the conflict, right? Like, we're aware that there's a conflict, but then we're not immediately addressing it, and I don't really see what we get from having the conflict kind of explicitly laid out for the characters. You know what I mean? Like, I want Elrond to move forward with the story with this sort of thing in mind. Like, it should almost be catastrophic, where she's like, I don't see what the point of this is. I don't see why this is important to him, or to me for that matter. And then he says, "Funny that you should mention you. Look, let me finish telling the story, and you will see how this is relevant to you." Right?
That's a little too pointed.
Well, I don't think he should explain it, but that's kind of his driving motivation, where he's like...
Right. I think that should be his motivation. I just don't think
he understands where she's coming from, and now he's going to address that issue. And then at the end of the episode, she still doesn't get it, right? That's where we're going from the end of the episode. She's still like, not only do I not see the point of your education, it's been, however, I don't know, he's getting too old. Right, should be her point. He needs to start learning how to be a man.
Right, he's getting too old for stories. Yeah,
right. That's how we open the next episode. So, I mean, this is where she first kind of expresses, "I don't really get what you're trying to do, and I think you're doing it wrong." In much the same way that Myron did, right, to Aule. He's like, "I think you're doing this wrong," and he says, "Give me a little more time. Let me finish the story. I hear what you're saying." Like, I definitely want Elrond to hear what she is saying and think he knows better. And in this instance, he does, right? And then later in the season, she has something that she can teach him, right? Because that's what we wanted, was for Gil Ryan and Elrond to come to a bit more of an understanding of each other. Her concern, if I understand, is that Estelle learn things that will help him be a leader, right?
Yeah.
As well as
but the not only that, right? We decided that the real conflict in this episode was for Gil Ryan, that she was the one that really had the arc here, that we're going to space out over 2 episodes, right?
Okay, so we definitely need to we definitely need to get to Nessa. Okay. Or we're gonna.
Are we cool with that though?
I think Marie. How are you on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All
right.
The story of Nessa can underscore that there are more important things than Estelle knowing how to keep his body alive. Absolutely.
And that being a leader, you have to be a rock already, right? You have to be comfortable and know your salvation cannot be at stake if you are going to lead others to salvation, right?
Right.
So then that's what Elrond is getting at, that the core of who the person is, that
they're
more than just being, exactly.
Okay, so...
Especially in light of the stealing.
So we have Nessa out gathering light, however that looks. I'm going to pass over it for right now because I'm sure that it's been discussed
Should
somewhere.
She have
not
a
just with it.
basket? Yes.
Whatever
picnic basket.
whatever it is that she's doing, sort of like picking flowers. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
She's dancing through the woodlands.
Yeah, and
Well,
she's dancing. Absolutely, she's totally dancing.
Dancing through the flowers with the basket.
And so then we
Little Red
see
Riding Hood, the ballet.
So the question I have, and I'm a little hazy on. If you guys can help me out, how do we introduce Ungoliant? Is she like hiding in the bushes and then
gathering the light? Nessa herself is getting brighter, right? Or she is carrying brightness with her. Like the surrounding area that should be sort of the scene in sort of Nessa's wake. That the background is kind of dark, or we could go the other way with it, right? We could follow Nessa and then kind of pan around her and see that as she has gone and collected some of the light. And I don't think Nessa should necessarily be aware of that. Ungoliant is hanging out in a web up high. She what? I can't
see the light moving.
She sees the light moving.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if she's hanging out in a web.
Up high, where would she be?
I guess she could be on a mountain of some kind. I don't know how she would get high because we don't have high trees yet, right? Mountain is the only thing that works for me, and I would be comfortable kind of making that a reference to Shalab.
What if there's a cave in a mountain?
Yeah, exactly, Shalab. Like maybe that's Ungoliant's thing, that she's kind of, oh man, maybe Ungoliant has already kind of eaten most of the light around the mountains that she lives in.
So there's a dark spot there.
And that should be a contrast. Like the darkness behind Nessa then pans around to look at the mountains of darkness that she's coming upon. And she's like, I haven't seen that before, because she hasn't looked behind her.
Maybe like she comes up to them and she's like, why is it so dark here? Right.
And she gets into she finds Ungoliant, who is awoken by the great brightness that she has collected. She's like, what's the deal with this place? And just kind of wants to check it out. I feel like anytime something new, like one thing that we can really do with the Valar is anytime something new that nobody's ever seen before happens, like they want to check it out. Because everything is new to them. So they're like, oh, this is totally awesome. Let's see what this is all about, right?
Yeah.
And Nessa is like totally unafraid, because why would she be afraid? But like the audience can be like, that seems maybe not so smart. And then we can start seeing the.
And we can totally see Ungoliant eat her basket of light.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, she should eat the basket of light, right?
Right.
Does she have a basket, really? I was joking, but now
however she's doing it.
So funny.
I mean, it doesn't have to be
her gathering light.
It doesn't have to be a basket, but like
an armful of light. But basket just seems so like Little Red Riding Hoodie, and I feel like that this has like definite.
This is the original Little Red Riding Hood story.
So Little Red Riding Hoodish that I can't unsee the connection.
Okay,
well, it's not a bad connection for what we're doing,
right? I mean, that's
maybe she has like a glass bauble that she's holding by a handle. What's wrong with baskets? You're overthinking it.
Yeah. It's silly. Like it's a little.
Well,
goofy.
we can. I mean, I feel like if we have a glass container that she's collecting the light into,
it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just
being
goofy. All right, so yeah. Do we want? Well, how do we? The thing with finding Ungoliant and going into her abode and like, going after her is that it makes
Ungoliant is in my house.
Well,
my wife is wearing a night mask thing.
Oh, okay. That's not as scary as spiders in your house. I mean, I think my cat is playing with a mouse, but whatever.
I feel like it makes Ungoliant seem slightly less predatory, right? But it kind of gives us an opportunity to show Nessa being active. So who do you want to be the reason initiator? Why this whole thing starts?
What if Ungoliant invites her into her super dark, creepy cave, and
so Nessa goes to check it out, and then Ungoliant sees her, and then comes down to greet her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
invites her in, and like it kind of like the image in the dialogue that's in my head, which is pretty stupid. But the dialogue that's in my head is kind of like, "What are you doing with the basket, little girl?" That kind of thing.
Like it's so Little Red Riding Hoodish.
Yeah,
It
no, yeah. But that's kind of
big teeth you have.
yeah.
So,
but Nessa is she's completely unafraid. There's no, it's not threatening to her. As creepy as it is to us,
yeah,
I think Uncle Lion is just curious about Nessa as Nessa's about her. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, they know who they are, right? It's not like they've never seen each other before. We saw Uncle Lion in episode 3.
Well,
for a little bit, and she was one of the ones that was not on board with Manway's plan. She was like, "Nope, see you guys, I'm done. I don't have any interest in being a part of your thing."
Right, but she didn't even have that conversation. She was just there in the background and saw her.
Right, she didn't have any lines, but when Manway was making his appeal to everybody, she
got left out.
Yeah.
No,
but she's certainly curious about what she's doing.
Chose to leave. Right, she was the first one that leaves when Manway makes, because that's so. I feel like we need that. Like we need somebody that we're gonna see again to walk away from the table and be like, I'm not interested. A creature very different than her.
We could have Tom Bombadil. If you want someone to be totally.
Yeah, I would not be against that. I don't think we should only see bad.
We can have him put it on his hat. We could see Tom put on his hat and just stomp off in his yellow boots.
Well, I don't think you should stomp.
Not stomp, but
this is not.
Just be like, I'm out of here.
Nope. Boop. Boom. Boom. Boom.
I don't know. I feel like we would have to get
kind of singing as he goes on.
I will be honest. I have never particularly cared for the idea of Bombadil as a Maiar, but I am willing to kick that can up down the road and ask anytime we can force the hosts to make a decision, I am on board with making them make the decision. Because if they're the ones who are going to hold judgment over all of the works that everybody else is going to do, then I'm going to make them be the judges and do that. So
she could be fascinated and might entertain ideas of having a friend, pet, partner. Yeah.
Well, pet is definitely like it should definitely be a master pet relationship for Ungoliant, like because she can't actually eat Nessa, right? But having a slave is kind of where I feel like she's going with that.
She can absorb her essence.
We've already had her suck a few Maiar dry of their life.
What?
When was that? I forget. When we were talking about that in episode 3. Yes, you're right. Yeah, we had talked about having this happen in episode 3, and I completely forgot to put it in the outline. We talked about having in episode 3 just random sucked dry having random sucked dry Maiar occurring, and like at first fingers start pointing at Melkor, and Melkor's like, but he's creeped out by it because he knows who it potentially is because he met her in the void.
Right. I don't hate that, but it also kind of it goes against the whole notion that the Maiar can't be destroyed, right?
Oh, they're not dead. They're
not dead. They're weakened severely.
They're slightly disoriented and no longer fully.
The truth of the matter is that the Maiar can, like, there's no question in reading the books. There's no question that you can put the Maiar in danger of some kind or another. Like, there's no way around it. It happens.
I don't know. I have.
The reason
I understand Sauron giving of himself into his own creations, but having a situation where you can steal from steal strength from another Maiar seems wrong to me.
Well,
I'm willing to.
Ungoliant was doing it to Melkor, so
sort of.
Well,
not in the same way. He was
clearly in fear for his life. He thought she was going to kill him,
and
in pain. Yeah, so like
right, but Melkor specifically in that moment, he's been burned by the Silmarils, right? So Melkor is kind of separate and different in that way from everybody else, because burning by the Silmarils, you'll remember, is when he's basically locked into his body.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he
doesn't. The rules don't exactly apply to him in the same way that they work with everybody else. I don't know.
I agree. Once you're locked into a body, it's different. But the whole reason for doing that actually has nothing to do with Ungoliant, although she would be the unique person who could do something like that to someone.
As Karita has pointed out.
But the whole reason for doing that is so that when they get to Valinor and they meet Lorien, Armagh in Lorien, the place of rest and healing, they have people in need of healing, because there's no point in the land of rest and healing if you don't have injured people.
Right. We see the land of rest and healing in episode 4?
No. What we said when we get there, we're going to have people to actually go there.
Right. We need people who need healing, and we can either do that when we destroy the lamps. We can injure some people.
We had something. Yeah, no, we had something for that already, I thought. I can't remember what it is. The point is, I don't want to rehash what you guys have already done in episode 3. I would like to bring that up to the hosts and run that by them before we turn in everything. Because I have kind of a problem with it, but at the end of the day, if that's what it's going to be, it's going to be, and I'll deal with it, and it'll be totally fine. Because it's a pretty minor point, and it's just a matter of, it's a minor point. I don't think it's going to ruin anything.
So we need to. So we need to.
Whatever the menace for Ungoliant is going to be, whether it's physical or like, I kind of am on board with what Karita was saying, that it's a friend pet partner relationship, emphasis on
at first,
like
at first she's trying to hold her there,
right,
and there has to be a moment where it becomes non-consensual. There has to be
absolutely,
and I'm using that term because I've been watching too many videos about interactions with police officers and something for whatever reason.
But
there has to be a moment where.
Well, that's the climax sort of danger moment where she's like, you're mine now. And I kind of think that it should be sort of a Ungoliant is kind of getting lonely. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think she is too proud to admit it, and I think she's too much of a loner to really do much about it on her own. But I think
this opportunity basically fell in her lap.
Yeah, like the impulse is that nobody does anything by themselves.
Lap.
I mean, that's sort of in a sort of grand Ilúvatarian sense, right? He made them to sing together.
Right.
They're all supposed to, and so she's interested in Nessa because she's actually kind of feeling lonely, and I think that's why she ends up helping Melkor. Of course, she wants to eat, but I think she ends up helping Melkor sort of for the same reason, that she wants to do something with somebody else, because that's her nature. That's how the nature of all the Valar is to work together.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nessa. I mean, like that scene. The scene for me isn't super difficult. I love to leave Ungoliant a very ambiguous person, but yeah, I think she could want companionship somewhere. Yeah, like
somewhere deep down. Yeah. So maybe
it's just her motivation. That doesn't need to be understood necessarily by the audience in any explicit way. That's just the subtext that we're working with. Right. She's curious because she wants companionship.
It should prefigure Eol and Eredal.
Yeah,
that's really good. And I don't think it needs to be really explicit. Just sort of the dynamic of the relationship is like, I'm actually legitimately lonely, but you also don't have a choice, right? Right.
And as soon as it's you can't leave, then it's obvious what's going on here, and that's where it. Yeah.
That's not how it's